Hi everyone, I'm Whitney from Sugar and Sparrow, and today I'm showing you how to make my favorite red velvet cake recipe. Over the years, I have perfected this recipe to be wonderfully soft and moist with the perfect touch of chocolate flavor, and it's completely irresistible when paired with cream cheese buttercream. It's one of those classic flavors that is sure to be a hit at any gathering. Let's get started with the ingredients. Here I have 2 cups or 212 grams of sifted cake flour, which makes the crumb nice and tender, 3 tablespoons of natural unsweetened cocoa powder for that hint of chocolate flavor, a teaspoon of baking soda, a half teaspoon of salt, a half cup or 113 grams of unsalted butter at room temperature, 1.5 cups or 300 grams of white granulated sugar, a half cup or 120 milliliters of vegetable oil, which adds a lot of moisture, 2 large eggs at room temperature, 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract, 2 teaspoons of distilled white vinegar, which gives the cake texture its signature velvety crumb, 2 teaspoons of red food color gel, which is how we get the red color, and 1 cup or 240 milliliters of buttermilk at room temperature. This adds to the moisture of the cake in a noteworthy way, and if you don't have buttermilk on hand, there is an easy way to make a homemade version. I do it all the time. You'll add 1 tablespoon of vinegar or lemon juice into a measuring cup, and then top it off with whole milk until you have 1 cup. Mix it together and let it come to room temperature before using it in the recipe. I always start by sifting the cake flour, and there are 2 ways you can measure this. You can either sift it into a large bowl and then spoon the cake flour into a measuring cup before leveling it off, or you can sift the cake flour right into a bowl on your kitchen scale to measure it by weight, which is what I'm doing here. Once I've got my sifted cake flour measured, I add to it 3 tablespoons of natural unsweetened cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and a half teaspoon of salt. Then I whisk it together and set it aside. When my dairy ingredients are all room temperature, I'm ready to get started mixing up the cake batter. I start by beating a half cup or 113 grams of unsalted butter at high speed until it's creamy, which takes about 2 minutes. Then I scrape down the bowl and paddle before adding in 1.5 cups or 300 grams of granulated sugar and a half cup or 120 milliliters of vegetable oil. You can use any clear vegetable oil for this part. Just keep in mind the flavor is going to add to the overall flavor of the cake. I set my timer for another 2 minutes while I set the mixer to medium-high speed and beat these ingredients together until they're light and airy. With the mixer on low speed, I add 2 large eggs, one at a time, making sure that each egg is fully incorporated before adding the next one. I add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla and 2 teaspoons of distilled white vinegar. Meanwhile, I whisk 2 teaspoons of red food color gel into the buttermilk. Now I'm going to add the dry ingredients that we whisked together beforehand, alternating with the red buttermilk in 3 additions, beginning and ending with the dry ingredients. I'm keeping the mixer on low speed so that I don't overmix the batter here. Be sure to scrape down the bowl and paddle and give it a few stirs by hand to make sure everything gets mixed together. Now that the batter's ready, I divide it evenly between my cake pans. These are 3 6-inch cake pans, but you could also use 2 8 or 9-inch cake pans. Bake the cakes for 30 to 35 minutes or until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out with just a few moist crumbs. When they're baked, I like to remove my cake layers from the pans almost immediately so they don't continue to cook. Once the cake layers have cooled completely, I like to level them, which is a totally optional step since these cake layers bake pretty flat. I do reserve some of the cake trimmings for decorating the cake later in this video. I want to show you how beautiful the inside of this cake layer turned out though. It's so soft and just the perfect texture. I filled and frosted these red velvet cake layers with a double batch of my cream cheese buttercream, which I will link below. I also have a separate video for my cream cheese buttercream recipe on my YouTube channel that includes all my best tips for decorating with cream cheese buttercream. If you've worked with it before, you know it can be finicky. You'll find that in the recipes playlist on my channel page. To decorate the cake, I used a cake comb to create a grooved texture in the frosting finish before crumbling up those red velvet cake scraps and adding them around the bottom. Then I used the extra buttercream to pipe rosettes and stars in a crescent shape on top. I used Wilton Tip 1M for the rosettes and 4B for the stars. Then I sprinkled more red velvet cake crumbs on top for added color. You can decorate this cake any way you'd like, and it's such a classic flavor combination that it's bound to be a hit at your next event. The cake is so moist and has an incredible undertone of chocolate flavor, which pairs so well with the tangy cream cheese buttercream. I could not stop eating it during filming, and I hope you love it as much as I do. If you love cake, head to my blog at sugarandsparrow.com for more recipes, cake decorating tutorials, and ideas for your cake making. And whether you're just starting out with cakes or you've been at it for a while but want to get better at decorating, check out my Cake Basics playlist on my YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button while you're at it so you never miss a new video. Thanks for watching!